Hello, everyone, and welcome to the NLC Full Open. I got confused by the UKL above my face, but we're in the NLC Full Open qualifiers, and we're being presented by the UKL. I'm Wolf William. I'm joined by Agent Jamala Ford, and we've got a massive first series for you today as Vanir are going to be taking on Resolve.
Yeah, and I couldn't really ask for a better series to cast, opening up the NLC 4. You and I both very familiar with Resolve, cast them plenty of times in UKL, and of course at the UKLC relegations, so we're pretty comfortable with Resolve. We kind of know about how good they are, but they still haven't really been tested yet, and I think this should be their first kind of test. A team like Vanir, the roster that they have, it's going to be whereabouts the kind of rosters that they're going to be contesting in UKLC Spring.
It's going to be a great test because we said this about Resolve so much. They got into that UKEL and absolutely rolled the league. They lost one game in their entire time in that league, including playoffs and promotion as well, taking on Bulldog, who are now a UKEL team because Resolve beat them 3-0 in those relegations. So they're absolutely dominant against everyone they played against. But Vanir is completely different weight class to the teams they were playing before. You look at the roster for Vanir, and there are a couple of players that really stand out. Vardags, if you've been watching League of Legends for a long time, you'll know this guy from Unicorns of Love.
You remember Vardags, yeah.
You remember him back from the old EU LCS. He's in this roster. So you can already tell how great this Norwegian roster is and all these players. And they're going to be something completely different from what Resolve are used to.
Yeah, and I mean, for me personally, as an ex-Unicorns of Love fan, I'm excited to cover a game that Vardags is in. But yeah, I think this Vanir roster should definitely give Resolve a little bit of a true test here today. And looking at matchups, I'm really looking forward to kind of seeing jungle v jungle and then sort of support versus support. I think looking down the Vanir side, specifically just because Wave and Espen, along with Vardags, the 3 returning members from Summer to this tournament, they should have their synergy sort of in stock, whereas the solo laners here, Smurfgoon and Sleepwee, they're new additions to the roster, whereas Resolve, they've been together for around 7 months or so now. So that's where my focus areas are for this, and as you can see on our screens, we're in Champ Select.
We're already into Champ Select, of course. We are playing on TR this time around, meaning that there's going to be no long pause between Champ Select and game. Vanir on the blue side, Resolve on the red. Of course, these players from Resolve, if you're used to UK League Legends, a lot of those faces will be familiar to you. Artorias, Pillar, Dragdar, all players who have had time in the UKLC previously. In Champ Select, of course, we are on the Worlds patch, meaning there will be no Yone and no Samira, and all the champions will be as strong, which is why you're seeing Lilia, Twisted Fate, Kindred all banned out. All had amazing performances today in the matchup between Suning and JD Gaming. So could see a couple of bans in that vein.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if Vanir are going to remove away Linkus's Graves. They've already removed away his Kindred. Graves, of course, has seen a lot of play at Worlds, and they're not actually going to take it away, so I would keep our eyes on that one for Resolve to pick up in one of the earlier rotations here. Opting into actually taking away Pillar's Galio, which I'm not sure if he'd actually shown a performance on it anytime during the UKL. He certainly didn't do it in relegation, so final ban away here is going to be the Silas, and I mean, that leaves a lot of priority picks open, especially the one that springs to mind is the Lucian, the Nidalee, another pick here, which I would imagine for Wave gets locked in. He absolutely loves this champion.
A very strong, aggressive jungler as well, who can really do some damage. Going to wait to see if that one is secured and confirmed for Vanir, but as I said, Wave would like to get some comfort under his belt and will be able to win this first game, picking up the Nidalee. Now the response here, Graves is open, as you've already said. There's some pretty powerful picks in the bot lane still available. The Ord, of course, up in the top side. And honestly, there's a lot of power left on the table in this draft.
Yeah, I mean, I think if Resolve want to go down the true teamfight route, they could even just early Orton. Well, they've locked in Orton. It seems like I didn't even see it was an instant lock. That's how fast it was. They could also go down the route of the Hecarim, but they could just lock in the prior AD, which they've done here with the Jhin. And then for Vardags, this leaves open all of the priority AD carries, right? You think about things like Ashe. That's kind of the one that you would normally see picked into this, but there's no real pressure. Vardags probably has a very deep champion pool. He did also pull out things like the Syndra and the Karthus during the regular split in summer, so he could just fall back. Vanir could opt into taking something like Camille and another sort of mid laner that can produce a lot of global priority. As we're seeing a Malzahar hover, the Camille has been locked in for Smurfgoon, so he's going to be very happy on that champion. He loves those kind of champions, and it's why we see Resolve also ban away the Aatrox early on. He is a really powerful bruiser player, and I mean, Lucian just went through, so going to hold on to that one. Most likely going to end up in Sleepwee's hands, I would imagine, but could definitely go towards Vardags.
is a flexible pickup. It will be interesting to see where Resolve decide to go. A couple of strong supports available. The Bard, the Leona, both up on the table, so could look to finalize that bot lane, or could maybe look to pick up a mid laner if you do think that Sleepy is going to be the one with Evolution on his hands. Also, strong pickup. We talked about this one. It's being hovered right now. The Graves for Resolve picking up that strong jungle pick. And I think if it's not picked here, it's almost certainly going to be banned next rotation.
Yeah, definitely would have been removed away. And I think that this is kind of gives Resolve a lot more freedom here in this second ban phase to kind of do whatever they want. They know that the Lucian is most likely going to end up in Sleepy's hands, though the Braum ban, well, I guess they have Dion, so it's more just target towards making sure they don't also have Braum Lucian in the bot lane, and it doesn't have to do with Ornn. Seeing Syndra removed away kind of indicates to me in a way that this is most likely going to be Lucian mid, but we'll have to kind of wait and see. Graves does like pairing up with Syndra as a 2v2, so the ban does make a lot of sense here, and is one of Pillar's comfort picks. So I think Resolve most likely just to go down another support ban here, because they're most likely going to take Brightly's pick.
Yeah, so going to be the Karma taken off the table. Interestingly, have left both Bard and Leona available. Two very, very strong supports on this patch, but clearly happy to handshake one apiece if they do decide to go down that route. Going alongside the Jhin as well. We'll have to see what the last pick is. Vanir can't really afford to ban one of those supports, because if they do, they just give the other one for free. And then have to go for something a little bit less optimal. Of course, there are still decent picks. You've got stuff like the Tom Pitch, which is off the table now. You've got stuff like the Set, which is obviously not bad alongside that Lucian if you do decide to take it down to the bot lane. But no more bans left for either team. Marksman also a role that's left pretty available. Maybe we can see a Misfortune here, something that teams have been liking into this Jhin.
Yeah, MF could definitely be a response, and we're just going to see a Thresh here. Very safe blind, don't really, have to commit to anything, can just be a Lantern bot at the end of the day, just provide pure utility. And Vanir, I mean, looking to round out their bot lane, Ashe wasn't really touched because of the support focus by Resolve, so I think Vanir, Vardag's going to be really happy to just lock it in. I'd imagine Vanir, given the team comp that they seem to have right now, going to opt into sort of more of a 1-3-1, so Ashe fits really well, or even Ezreal just clearing mid waves, throwing out global ultimates, and Rakan Ezreal bot lane, it doesn't really get much safer than that. It does mean, though, that they are going to end up yielding a lot of bot lane priority, and I would expect, because of this lock-in here, that Resolve will have a lot of priority towards the early dragons.
It will be difficult for Ezreal to be able to grab that one away from the Jhin and the Thresh. Even though he's going to be safe, he's not going to be providing too much on the bot side. Would be interesting to see where the junglers decide to play around. But before we get too much into that matchup, we're going to have to see what's going to be picked up mid. And safety, ooh, I was going to say safety is the order of the day, but the Cassiopeia being locked in for Pillar, this is an exciting pickup.
Yeah, I quite like the Cassio. I think it does really well into some of the dive, excuse the dog, that you might hear. I think it does really well into some of the dive that Camille and Rakan will kind of offer on snap engages. And it means if she does get locked into the cage, I mean, she's kind of okay with it, right? She's got the Petrifying Gaze, she's got the Miasma. She's fine, and she can kind of protect herself while she's being sort of CC'd or locked down. So I like this last lock-in here by Resolve, and it also provides that extra bit of scaling, which, I mean, they already had the Graves, they already had the Ornn, they already had the Jhin. Why not just add on that little bit extra?
And it gives them a lot of AP damage, which is something that their composition was lacking, having that Jhin and that Graves as their two main damage sources before the last pickup. But looking over Vanir's roster very, very quickly, because I think Resolve have gone quite safe in this pick and ban. They've gone for stuff that's pretty meta. The Cassiopeia is maybe a little bit more out there, but we know that Pillar likes the champion. Over on Vanir, it's looking a lot more intense. It's looking a lot less comfortable meta picks and a lot more comfortable what we like to play.
Yeah, I mean, I think you would. This is the kind of comp that you would maybe see out of somebody like Damwon, I guess, right? Where they kind of just pick for lane, they play for the lane matchups, and they just try and like Gooper stomp their lanes. So I'm kind of excited to see where Vanir go in game. I think that they definitely have to be very top side focused, just by nature of having the Ezreal and Rakan on the bot side, and having such strong solo laners in the Lucian and the Camille.
So let's have a quick prediction from you then, because we were looking at the two teams, and we were talking about this a lot before we went live. How these teams are very, very interesting, but it's difficult to see or to say who's going to win based on the players they have, just because we don't know how we don't know what Resolve's level is. We know what level they're above, but we haven't kind of found where their current ceiling is. And with Vanir, we know this is a very, very strong roster, but we haven't seen them play with this roster before in competitive games. So now that you've got the two rosters in terms of champions, who do you think is going to be winning out this first game?
I think if Vanir can get themselves an early lead, then they can maybe snowball into something, but I think Resolve's composition is a little more sort of bog standard. It's very hard to sort of shake. And I don't really feel like Vanir necessarily have the matchups to abuse the lanes that Resolve have drafted for themselves or the jungle matchup. So I think as long as Vanir don't end up really building this huge early snowball lead, that Resolve should be comfortable after like 10 to 15 minutes.
So we'll have to see if they can hold out. Of course, with that on, putting the ornaments on will make things a little bit easier in the late game. But Vanir, we don't know if these players are going to be standing up man to man with the Resolve lineup. And it's going to be very interesting because if Vanir prove to be just that little bit better across the board as players, then Resolve are going to have a really, really tough time getting to the point where they can feel confident to start outscaling and to start getting those stronger items that these champions desperately need.
Yeah, and I think it's definitely something I should highlight is that Vanir's comp doesn't necessarily get outscaled 1-to-1, but when you're talking about how these comps are likely going to interact with each other, Resolve's comp should kind of win out most times. Especially Lucian now, going the Manamune build, he scales really well. He scales really well, and then obviously you have Ezreal, you have the Camille. The Nidalee, if she decides to go into the utility build, also aids a lot in some of these diving kind of compositions. So
yeah,
I think if Vanir can take a commanding lead, especially around these solo lanes, that things can get a little bit scary for Resolve, but as long as they stabilize in that kind of situation, they should be able to sort of win out most times here.
I'm excited to see how this Vanir composition plays. It's so aggressive. It's so much fun. Like, you've got that Lucian, you've got the Ezreal, you've got the Nidalee. They've got so much mobility and utility. It's going to be super hard to be locked down by anything, right? Richie's going to have a struggle landing any kind of hooks. Who are you hooking? Everyone's got dashes and leaps. The least mobile champion on this roster is probably Nidalee. And that says something, considering that's Nidalee. Like, she's not slow. She can be leaping about the place long distances if she can land a little bit of damage beforehand. And it's going to be a massive struggle for Resolve to lock anyone down in these early stages. But skirmishing is definitely where I think Vanir are going to be favored. And if we start getting to those massive 5v5 team fights, I think it could be a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, I think if Resolve can sort of force greater team fights, then they should be a little more successful. They have some of the engage tools to get things started, like the Ornar, the Jinna Ornament. And I think for Resolve, they just have to try and use the priority that they should gain from their bottom side and see if they can get maybe something working in the mid 2v2, because they should be able to win out mid 2v2 once Pill hits level 6, but things will definitely be a little bit scary in the early laning phase.
Absolutely. As we're just going to be waiting just to get loaded in. Of course, it's the first game of the NLC Fall tournament for a lot of people, so a couple of teething problems, just going to be resolving those as quickly as possible. Resolving, like the team on red side. We can talk a little bit about the NLC Fall Open, because the NLC Fall Open is the tournament we are currently casting. This is the first round of qualification. This will be a best of 3 series, with one of the teams going home and the other team advancing. Well, I say going home. They'll be back next week because, of course, this is a 2-weekend event. These teams need to reach the top 4 in any given qualification in order to qualify for the main event in a few weeks' time. And after we get to that top 4 on Sunday, it will be best of 1s in the last 4, just to determine seeding and stuff. So going to have some amazing series coming through today and tomorrow. And then on Sunday, you can see the best teams going up against each other in quick best of 1s. But looking towards this game, I'm excited. I'm excited back. It's been a while since I've cast a bit of League of Legends,
Yeah,
and I want to get directly into it on the Worlds patch of all things.
On the Worlds patch, yeah. I think last time for me was definitely relegations. You might have had something to do somewhere. I'm sure you're busy.
What did I? I did the esports Cup of Nations is what I cast last, I believe. So there was a little something.
Yes, I'm still shaking off the rust. You had your chance to shake off the rust, so that means you got to carry me a bit in this first game until I'm warmed up. But yeah, I think we've spoken a lot about the comps. I think as far as players go, definitely want to be focusing on Linkus and Dragdar given their performances in relegations. Almost sort of like 1v9 carrying Resolve through the series. And then towards Vanir, of course, Vardag's really big name. He's been around for a very long time. And then seeing how these new sort of players for Vanir perform, right? The solo laners, Smurfgu and Sleepway.
We talked about Sleepway a little bit before we came into, before we went live, essentially. Just me and Jamada were looking at this player and saying, maybe someone who can feel a little bit aggrieved by how things have gone recently in his career, because was on a roster that did very, very well. He was with Granite Gaming out in Sweden, actually had a decent win record, 62% win rate with them before being benched just as they were going towards Telly at Masters. And of course, Granite did amazingly in Telly Masters, getting all the way to the top and going for that top 4 spots, playing in those. But Sleepy kind of played decently, played fine when he was out there in Sweden, but then didn't find a position in the roster moving forward. Has now come over to Vanir, playing alongside some very competent players. And this is kind of proving ground time because he's up against Pillar, who on this Resolve lineup, which has been very solid, very stable, has maybe been the player that we've question mark pinged the most of anyone on Resolve. And that's not like a lot of times, it must be said, because this Resolve team, as we keep saying, and we'll say until they find their level, have just been rolling pretty much everyone except for London Esports. That one time was a 4v5. We don't talk about that series.
It's fine.
Except for I was the only person who predicted London United to win that series because
it's still holding on to it. Still holding.
I got Mauer to cut someone's internet cable. It's fine. Don't worry about it. But Pillar, we talked about this as someone who, at times for Resolve, and I'm thinking specifically of the end of last season in the UKL, was sometimes looking a little bit shaky. We have found our way onto the Rift there, everybody. We've got Vanir versus Resolve. Vanir on the blue side, Resolve on the red. Best of 3 series, and it's coming at you right now.
Yeah, getting the series started. So I think definitely want to keep our eyes on the early jungle pathings here. I think Wave is most likely going to be pathing towards the Camille, towards the Lucian, whereas Graves definitely looking to sort of go towards the bottom side, try and see if he can secure a Scuttle Crab for himself, because things can definitely get rough if Sleepy manages to secure a lot of early mid priority. Then we could see Linkus end up getting double crabbed, which would be very, very unfortunate for him.
Don't want to be giving up to move crowd at all. But where are we going to see the action initially taking place? Because these two junglers maybe want to be getting involved quite early, but are also both pretty happy to farm it up.
Yeah, I think it's the nature of Nidalee and the Graves matchup. Nidalee sort of came into Mel a few patches ago as an answer to Graves, kind of just because, you know, it's a matchup where Nidalee can keep pace with Graves, and there's not too many junglers early that can say that they can do that and be competitively viable. As nice little death sentence. I don't think much will come of it. But yes, Nidalee can keep up with Graves in farm, and in some of these smaller skirmishes can definitely get the upper end, but it's very hard to sort of find engages onto Graves just because he can quick draw away from a lot of Nidalee spears. So it can be hard to, you know, per se lock him down, but keeping up in the CS department is kind of the name of the game for this matchup.
You can see both jugglers are going full clear, meaning that they're going to be a little bit slower to respond anywhere if there is a fight. Of course, neither of them have that topside buff just yet. Graves has the little bit of advantage speed-wise in this earliest stage of the clear, but will be evened out a little bit going forward, especially with the times on the camps. Going to be causing them to have to back all these matchmen in the ball. We're seeing a lot of action. Vardax has to flash away and use the E in order to survive against Richley and Dragdar. Early aggression is certainly paying off for the side of Resolve.
Yeah, and this is kind of what we were saying, right? This matchup, it's the kind of lane where Ezreal, Rakan, they're not really lane bullies, right? They're not trying to do anything more than survive the lane. And it must just come off the back of a really nice engage from Likely and maybe a Death Sentence or a Flay. And we saw Vardax forced to flash away. If Dragdar got that 4-shot off, he probably would have died. Already taking a plate 3 minutes into the game. This is not the best start for this Vanir bottom side.
Absolutely not. You don't want to be giving away this gold early, especially into a Jhin, who's such a powerful champion at the moment, can do so much safe damage, and is no slouch in the CC department as well. Rakan going to be caught on a hook, and you can see the damage coming through half health from a very, very simple round of damage from both Dragdar and Richley. So, Vanir, we talked about this being a bot-centric matchup in terms of the two teams on paper, and in the early stages, it's definitely all going the way of Resolve.
Yeah, all going the way of Resolve, but has to be said, of course, just the nature of this matchup. We'll have to see how things sort of progress as time goes on. Of course, Ezreal, he's a 2 IM Spike champion, right? He wants that Manamune stacked up. He wants the Triforce of the Iceborne Gauntlet to sort of really come online, whereas Jhin, you know, he has a very nice curve. You know, he starts off pretty much near a lane bully status and then just scales into this obnoxious sort of hyperscaler. As seeing a trade come in here, Pillar definitely getting the worst end of that.
Let's step forward trying to go for that trade, which is a little bit interesting, seeing as he got a face full of laser and had to back off. And that was so close to being first blood on Cassiopeia under tower out of nowhere. But Pillar, knowing that maybe he's not going to overstay his welcome. He's going to be going back and not letting First Blood go to Sleepy. But that is looking like a dangerous matchup.
Yeah. And it's sort of what we were expecting to see out of the Lucian Cassio matchup, though I feel like Pillar's probably not laning the best right now to be eating up on some of these trades. As Artorias, I don't know if he's in trouble. I feel like he's fine.
I think
he's just
going
to
to
drag the wave. But going to be forced most likely to TP back in so that lane doesn't get frozen on him. But very exciting opening, especially towards this bottom side. And Pillar nearly going down to what kind of just seemed like a throwaway piercing light from Sleepy. And now I think this is sort of the time where we start to look at the first dragon spawn. What are Resolve going to sort of look to achieve from all of this bottom lane priority?
Looking towards the ocean, you'd think that that would probably be the port of call for Graves. Currently on the top side alongside the Nidalee though. Haven't seen the junglers getting too interested in fighting, but everyone else is. The culling coming down. Pillar will go down for First Blood as it's going to be picked up by Vanir and it's picked up by Sleepy.
Yeah, and I mean, Sleepy right now just putting on an absolute show, to be honest with you. Pillar is not able to keep up right now. Has the cloth in his inventory. I'm not sure if he just purchased it or came back to lane with it, but it really just was not enough. Sleepy with about, I would imagine, a 15 CS lead once he fully delivers that wave, as Smurf is getting the worst end of the trade. Artorias is for the Horn.
That's going to be on the Horn, but Wave is there to try and make this one a 2v1, but 2v2, Linkus likes fair odds. Wave going to be chased away, flashing forward from Artorias, forces the flash from the Nidalee in response. No one's gone down just yet, but they could maybe look to start up a dive. Smurfgooten just going to be trying to cull down some of those minions. Won't be getting attacked just yet as Linkus and Artorias get the plate and might look to leave.
Yeah, I think sort of denying away some of that CS and then getting the plate was the main objective once Linkus showed up and had dissuaded the gank. And yeah, I mean, we said Vanir, looking at the solo laners, right? These are the new guys. We don't know how exactly they're going to perform with the team, but I mean, Sleepy seems more than comfortable in his lane right now. And Resolve, they're winning on sides, right? Well, I guess Artorias is technically down in CS, but he has the plate to sort of make up for some of that CS deficit. But he's been having an okay time in the top side. Dragdar and Rightly definitely, you know, they're pulling ahead in the bottom side in CS. But Resolve, they need to sort of try and get... Well, they're not under so much pressure, right? They don't have to realistically take this early dragon or get an Ocean Soul. I mean, a Dragon Soul win condition going. But it's just something to try and put some more pressure on this Vanir comp that doesn't necessarily always want to 5v5 straight into this Resolve competition. So I think trying to maybe get one of these dragons away early so that there's a little more pressure on Vanir to maybe think around Dragon 2 and 3 would be very nice for them, especially with all of the bottom side priority that they've been having. They have this giant wave that they should crash right here, but Sleepy, again, he's had priority for all of the lane. He has it right now and he's moving down into the river.
Moving towards the river, you can see Cassiopeia following, Pillar there, Graves is there, both junglers in fact will get involved in Resolve, are going to get engaged on Rich, needs to be careful, has already gone below half health as Wave jumps forward, looking for the damage. Fresh is going to have to flash away up river, finding Linkus, but finding other members of Vanir. The curtain has been called and Espen is the target. He's going to be able to jump away as Pillar goes towards Sleepy in the 1v1. Who will win this time around? We saw Sleepy win last time. Does Pillar have the damage? Yes, he does, as he secures the kill for Resolve. First kill of the game is Dragdar snipes out a second, taking down Vardax. This isn't ULCS anymore, son. You're in our town now.
Yeah, Dragdar with a nice little bit of accuracy right there, and somehow Pillar manages to take down Sleepy. It felt like it was going to go the way of Sleepy as...
going in, it's going to be secured by Graves, and we're going to see the kill on the league again. Your response kind of said it all about that attempted steal.
Yeah, I think you can just let that one go away. I don't think you need to make things worse. Just donates over another kill, and it's gone over to Dragdar too, which not ideal. So I think now Resolve very comfortable. We'll have to see what they sort of do in lane matchups, right? Whether they want to swap Artorias around towards the bottom side, whether they want to put prior on the Herald is kind of the important thing now. But that was an exciting fight for sure, and I think that's the kind of way that some of these fights can go if the game goes on. And Vanir, they don't really want to take 5v5s into this Resolve composition. I think this is definitely more of an optimal fight for Resolve, despite how things started out. But I just think now Resolve, they want to try and be a little more objective focused.
Well, you can say about objective focus. They got the dragon. That's the first main objective off the table. They're also doing better in the turret plate department, having grabbed 2 to Vanir's 0. So we can say there's improvements to be made for sure, but they are in a nice position to have themselves a 1.5k gold lead at the 10-minute mark, which is nothing to sniff at. And with Rifty on the map, the big old Herald richly going forward, can't land the death sentence. But you've got to imagine, if you want an objective-focused game, this is the next one that's going to be on the table. No supports have moved just yet, but Linker's making moves towards Smurfute and gets him down pretty low, but he wants to fight. All on coming through. Will be able to get the knock up in the ultimatum. He will, and Linkers is going to be able to secure the kill. Wave isn't confident to go for that final bit of damage that will be needed to take down Graves. Is going to be backing away. Saw Cassiavia moving as well, maybe decided didn't want to get involved in a too many member scuffle. We'll be getting out safely.
Yeah, and fortunately for Vanir, off the back of that, Resolve won't be able to convert into a Rift Herald, I think is the sort of takeaway from that skirmish. I think Smurf sort of getting a little bit too excited, though it kind of makes sense because Wave was in the vicinity that he wanted to go onto Limpus like that. It's just a little bit too overforced. There was, I don't think that Sleepy had delivered the wave yet. He wasn't actually on his way, I'm unsure. But with Artorias having the R, it means he can just engage from long range anyway. He can assist from that distance. And it was just a little bit too much of an overreach to try and take down Lucas.
He did go down. Was very, very close to getting the kill onto Graves, but did not have that final bit of damage required to secure it. And once again, Resolve come away with the lead in the trade. Didn't get the Rift Herald, sadly, but it's still on the map. There's still a couple of minutes, still plates fall off, so opportunity still to grab it. Graves doesn't look too interested in it right now, though. He's moving into the bot side jungle of Wave. Just trying to steal away those raptors from under Nidalee's nose. She won't be too pleased about that one, but not much she can do with all the support that she's getting from her bot lane. In the top side, we haven't talked about this too much, but Artorias is a little bit behind in farm, but has got that assist. And of course, Ornn, if you're getting experience, you're very happy.
Yeah, I mean, Ornn is very happy to fall behind in CS in some matchups. Just by nature of, once he hits that level 13 mark, he's getting... Okay, I'm sorry. You know, he's getting some of that innate gold value. I say that, but a wave is here.
Wave coming in. We know the dash was used by Ornn. A lot of damage coming down onto the Camille. Won't be able to get the heal, so she's going to be forced back away. So this is a 1v1.
Oh.
Linker's making it a 2v1. Smokescreen comes down. Flash force from Wave, but Artorias wants this one. Oh, will land the knock up this time around. And the collateral damage from downtown secures the kill for Resolve.
Yeah, I mean, very unfortunate for Wave that he gets clipped out by the searing charge there on the way out of the blasting cone. Now, I imagine this is what should be a Rift Herald conversion off the back of that. He's going to get the Skull Crab for his troubles, Linkus. Really starting to pull away here in the means of farm and XP. And yeah, I mean, I was going to say, I think it's actually not too terrible for Resolve to even end up swapping their laners, as we're seeing a response here from Vanir to try and deny away this Rift Herald attempt. I think that's good. Because Vanir's strong side is obviously the solution, is the Camille, until just now it feels like Artorias is like to take over this side lane. As long as Vanir aren't getting the Rift Herald to trade out for losing the early dragon, I think Resolve could also be okay with that trade, right? They don't have to necessarily be super active. There is no onus on them to necessarily get a lead, but they're getting one, and it's a bit disastrous for Vanir's composition.
He said that they were the ones who wanted to get the early aggression and get those early skirmish plays. But they've all gone Resolve's way, except for one trade mid lane, 1v1. Definitely being the UK roster that's been having more success. Now, Pillar's going to be able to pick up a blue buff, maybe. Wave going to look for the spear. A lot of damage coming through still. Not a champion you want to be scuffling with, and Sleepy coming into this one. Very unfair. Pillar will go down once again. Second time this time around in the jungle. The top side, Drag Dart and Richly going to be able to get the charge, get the tower. All those plates going over to Jin as well. And things looking pretty scary for Vanir. They're going to be able to get a decent trade down bot with the dragon alongside the kill. But Resolve going to be pretty happy with that trade, all things considered.
Yeah, I think even though Pillar's gone down there at the blue buff, I think, like you're saying, Resolve are really comfortable with this, right? They've got all the gold on the members that they need it on, really, right? They got the plates onto Linkus, onto Dragdar, and you look at the scoreboard, you look at the items, those are the two carries of not just this roster, but this game specifically as well. So, very happy with the trade overall. Like we're saying, Resolve, they're not really under much pressure, right? In these 5v5s, they will outscale, and that's really all they have to bank on. As long as they're not giving over silly shutdowns now or silly towers or picks, which Vanir they have some of the tools to do, right? They have the quickness, they have the X-Tech Ultimatum, but it's about setting up the vision to try and make these things happen. But Resolve can kind of respond relatively quickly and from some kind of range, right? Rightly can always throw the lantern at max range. Ornn can always sort of on-horn if he's in the vicinity to sort of dissuade the engage. So Vanir, I feel like already, in a way, they're sort of running out of options in this game. And they're sort of just going to have to rely here on trying to hit item spikes and fighting around those item spikes, right? You think about the Triforce of the Camille, the Triforce or the Ice Hornet of Vardag's here, and then the Essence Reaver of Sleepweed, and then you try and fight on those spikes, you fire around those carries. On side lanes, you try and make numbers advantages, but it's just going to be so difficult to find those when Resolve, at the moment, you can see they're just slowly gaining control of the map.
Gaining control of the enemy jungle. Cassiopeia unable to get her own blue buff, but will be happy to pick up Vanir's in that top side jungle. Moving towards the mid lane, Linkus, Richley, and Dragdar. Pretty scary three-player unit. We're looking to get some damage on this mid tower. Tricky to take down too quickly, and of course with the reload duo that is Graves and Jin, we're going to have to cut that point off though. Nice quickening coming through, will only catch on to Richley though. Wave has to go golden on the side, as you can see Artorias coming through, looking for the damage. Now the Curtain is calling down damage as well, and the first kill of the fight will be going down. Second as well as Pillar picks that one up. It's 2-0 for Resolve right now, everyone getting out alive. Richley pretty fortunate to be able to survive that trade, but he will do. And the first tower goes down, they're looking at the second.
Yeah, and I think Vanir they kind of just panic, right? This Artorias R, the Ornn was a very sort of Korean ultimate where Ornn will just sort of rotate up towards the mid lane, cast it, and try and force back the other team just to get the tower for free. But Vanir see this and they think, okay guys, I guess we just have to snap engage. We have to go in and we have to counter this engage. And it doesn't work, right? Wave drops, Vardags has to reset his run back to base with his tail between his legs. And all in all, Resolve somehow managed to get out of that without even dropping a member, which I think is the very impressive thing about that. And all the while, I think Camille was just on the bottom side, hitting away at the tower, so yes, she gets a few waves under her belt, but I think Vanir as a whole lose way more, and now Resolve with those two mid lane towers, they're going to be able to take control of both sides of the jungle here, and things just go from bad to worse.
This map has been cracked wide open for Resolve after that last fight and the subsequent push. Dragons will be very, very easy to take. Rifthold and Baron even more so, as Vanir do not even have a top outer to scuttle back to if things go wrong contesting. But of course, that's going to be a little while. We do have the Dragon coming up next. Only about 10 seconds before the Rift Herald will come up. But second Rift Herald, don't believe the LPL teams. It's not something that's worth 5v5ing over and over again.
Listen, the LPL teams have it right. I'm telling you.
You know what? I love LPL. I love the League of Legends they play over there. Sometimes they make interesting decisions about when is time to fight, because they just answer always. You know,
the answer is always.
Not for these two teams though. They're just doing some vision control on opposite sides of the map. You've got Resolve obviously looking towards this third dragon, the first one of the Mountain Soul, which will be our dragon of choice for the first game of this NLC full open qualifier. In the top side, you can see members going through, but the curtain has been called by. So need to be very, very careful. Linkers and Richley go fishing, and they do find a tasty one. It's a big one, and Richley will take the kill for himself.
Yeah, and I mean, this game, as Pillar and Sleepweed they're doing mid laner things right now.
Just a little bit of a trade, don't worry about it.
If Sleepweed doesn't kill Pillar now, he's just going to die to the rest of Resolve anyway.
Sleepweed looking for that kill. He's heard you, flashes forward. Really nice dodge. Pillar gets the shield up, and Wilby gets his team involved as well. Little bit unfair of a 1v1 as Dragdar picks up a kill, but Resolve going from strength to strength in this game.
Yeah, Sleepweed, does that technically count as a weak side death? I feel like it does, right? The rest of it are just on the top side. Vardag's just died in mid lane.
You're so technically right.
Yeah.
But also really not.
Yeah. There's a... I hear sirens, man. I hear the sirens. Yeah, I mean, this game isn't going great. It's not going great for Vanir right now. Their win conditions are shrinking by the minute. And as things stand, it feels like Resolve should just be able to sort of guide this one home with the composition that they've drafted themselves. They're double dipping right now. You've got two members on the Herald and you've got two members on the Dragon. That's how far ahead Resolve are in this game. And it's going to be really difficult for Vanir to come back in unless Resolve sort of get a little bit too greedy. But I just don't see that happening just based on how Resolve have been playing out this game so far.
The tower will be secured by Resolve. Of course, they've got the Mountain Dragon as well off screen. So dominating in the objective department so far in this matchup. Lost that second dragon, but it's alright. You don't need the Inferno Dragon anyway. We'll be able to pick up another tower. Actually going to be the one falling on the bot side for Vanir. So they're first of the game. Not going to be doing too much for them in this one, but it's always nice to get your first tower down.
You take what you can get. You take
Absolutely.
what you can get in a game like this. And Baron is now going to be spawning up, and with no dragon on the table for another 4 minutes, you'd imagine that Resolve are just going to set up shop around here. And looking at the bot side, I'm hoping Pillar's freezing that wave, or as his ex-coach, I'm going to be very upset with him. I think he shoved it out, didn't he?
Dropping into the DMs.
Alright, he shoved it out. Alright.
You played well so far, but what were you doing at 20 minutes?
No,
What's
he's been
going on?
running it. He's been running it. Come on. He's been solo killed twice. Well, no, he got solo killed once. Sleepy has been the focal point of Vanir so far. I think if there's anything to take away looking at a game 2, assuming that this game follows the current trend of the previous 20 minutes, is that if you can secure Sleepy a positive matchup, that maybe as long as the rest of the map doesn't fall apart, you can find something from this lane, from this mid lane. That being said, will we see another poor Pillar performance like what we saw in the early laning phase? It's kind of hard to say. Pillar, we've highlighted as the player that can sort of be the weakest out of the roster, but we saw him have a pretty decent performance in relegations. He really sort of came back to like form, as that was a nice bit of chunk. And yeah, I mean, Resolve, at the moment, they're gathered around the bottom side. I'm not really too sure why. I feel like you would probably yield a little more success from mid or top, but being on the bot side as a 4, it does mean that there's only sort of one angle that they can be engaged on.
Yeah.
Whereas if they were in the mid lane, you know, Camille could try and find the flank from top side, whilst Rakan come from the bottom side. So still fine, they still have priority everywhere, and they're not really at much threat.
So they want to go on a little bit of a journey to the top side. I'm really upset because we were talking before this game, and we were talking about Pillar specifically and saying, what is it going to be? What's the result going to be if Pillar maybe loses out the matchup or makes a couple of mistakes in 1v1s and looks around and sees his team isn't able to stat check the same way that they have been in their previous games this season?
Yeah.
In the UK EL and in the relegation. And this is exactly what's happened. Pillar has lost a couple of 1v1s, is looking around, seeing how his team's doing, and they're just stat checking again. Which,
yeah, I mean,
it's good. Pillar's in his comfort zone currently.
Yeah.
Maybe we'd like him to be slightly less comfortable in some of these 1v1s. But again, it doesn't matter. He was losing the 1v1 on the bot side and just called his big brother. And by his big brother, I mean the entirety of his roster.
Yeah,
and they came down and just beat the dude up.
Yeah, it's literally like the school tales, right? You know, there's a kid with a big brother, he's big and mean. The little brother being bullied, and then he just pulls over the rest of the team. We'll see if Artorias can actually get dropped here.
Artorias being bullied, he's in the ultimatum, he's really, really beefy, but it is a 2v1. No one in the neighborhood for Resolve to come and save him. Look for the ultimate, we'll get stunned up though. I won't be able to call it. And Ezreal Vardags, you were meant to be involved in that fight, but the ultimate will snipe out the kill.
I mean, Vardag's very happy to take that little bit of income for himself, as really reaping the benefits of an engage from Espen and Smurfgoon. Seems like Camille should be able to get the tower unless somebody on the Resolve side comes up to retaliate, but I don't think that's going to really be the case. They're actually dropping the Herald towards the bottom side, it seems like. I'm going to try and take down that bot lane tier 2 tower, as on the opposite side, the response is just going to be this top tier 1. So nice little bit of gold influx for some of these Vanir members, but you know, it's sort of it's one of those things where you're like, okay, this is nice, but the rest of the game. Local gold gonna go on to Pillar, so he's gonna be happy about that one. But this is technically one of the conditions for Vanir is the Camille as the game goes on this side lane, but being so far behind, it just life just sucks right now. As the third dragon here for Resolve spawns up, and we haven't really touched on it much. It is a mountain, and normally very good for these Ornn compositions, not just because Ornn himself is very tanky, but normally he hands out some of the items that can provide a little bit extra on the defensive stat boost, and then you also stack the mountains on top of it, and things get really tanky, for lack of a better descriptor. Graves even has the grit. Pillars opted into the early Zhonyas, so you know, Vanir are really going to struggle to tear down some of the health bars now if Resolve end up picking up another Mountain Dragon, and that's all.
And it's not like Vanir are getting through health bars very easily at the moment. Richly, throws a lantern down, spots out a few people in the dark, goes fishing, finds one. It's going to be Wave who has to go golden, but Dragdar's there. Can he snipe the collateral damage? We'll find a flash, but the curtain's cooled regardless, and it's going to be another kill for Dragdar.
Rightly is so good to react like that. I was seeing Linkus dash over the wall. S-Pen should be fine though.
Oh, I don't know. He's jumping around, trying to get away. Linkus is hunting though. Won't be able to find the last couple of auto attacks that are required. But first ornament has been picked up. Santa Orn has been round to all the good kids' houses, and Jin, best kid today, picking up the Molten Edge.
Yeah. Pillar's the kid that gets the call. He doesn't get, even though he's level 15. Yeah, he gets the call. He doesn't get to have his well, I mean, I guess they'll probably be waiting to give him the Death Cap upgrade, the Death Crown, but, you know, Dragdar, I think he deserves it the most, getting that Molten Edge. He's had a stellar performance in this game one. As now, just sort of back to a soft stalemate, but I'd imagine that Resolve, they can kind of do whatever they want at this point in the game. Vanir haven't really been able to open up the map enough to successfully 1-3-1, and Resolve have just constantly found what feels like numbers advantages even when they haven't been numbers advantages in some of these skirmishes, and they've just won out. They won out on the objectives, they won out in, you know, mini skirmishes, and because of that, you're seeing the gold leads about 6,000, and Vanir, they can't keep up with this composition in a 5v5. They have to try and find picks like they tried to on Rightly, but he just reacted too well. Dropped the lantern in the bush and then hooked, and that was all it took. And I think even though we've had the spotlight on Dragdar and on Linkus specifically, I think we still have to give quite a bit of credit actually to Rightly. He's really found a lot of key death sentences and had a lot of decent plays as well to sort of lock up and lock down key members of this Vanir side, especially in the early game, getting that early lead.
100% Rightly have been playing exceptionally well on the fresh. You can see the Death Cap has been completed by Pillar, so might be forcing Orn to come a stop in when he gets his next level up. Of course, getting one ornament per level after 14, including 14 because he gets himself a couple of presents as well. He's been on the Amazon sales and he knows what he wants. And it's always the same things from. But in the bot side, we have got that Camille versus Orn matchup that we were talking about being potentially a win condition for Vanir. Obviously, they found themselves to it not in necessarily the state that they'd wanted to have found it, but could be a way out of this massive hole. A 6k gold lead coming through for Resolve, and they've got absolute dominance everywhere. It's only a matter of time before they decide to make a big fight around one of these objectives.
Yeah, and I think, sort of briefly touching on the gold lead one more time, the scarier thing has come along. I guess we might cut it short.
Nice flash from Smurf Gooted. He's going to be pretty able to dance away, but we'll get rooted up. We'll get knocked up. Dragdar can put the damage down, and the wall isn't going to be Camille's friend. Artorias picking up the kill in the end there. Is that the pickup they need to start moving to Baron?
Yeah, I think it probably should be. And Artorias just claps Camille out of the hook shot. If you're wondering why she didn't end up going over the wall, Artorias just right-clicked her. I don't know what else to say. But yeah, the Orn items handing out all of that sort of free gold as well, even though it says a 6,000 gold lead on your screens, or now a 7,000. It's closer to like a 9 on items, as Linkus is being jumped onto by. I think he should be fine, as the rest of the Resolve are just finishing Baron. They don't care about the jungler.
They don't need the jungler to do better. Don't be silly. It's about the support and the marksman.
S-Pen isn't on their own side of things.
Well, it was, but Resolve decided to recall and reset rather than chasing down the Rakana, who is pretty
They gave
slippy.
him mercy. They gave him mercy.
Thank you, Resolve, for being merciful towards our Rakan support, but not at all to the rest of the team. Not to poor Wave, who's being killed 4 times for just doing his best to be a jungler. But, you know, now moving towards the dragon, will be spawning up very soon, 20 seconds, and this is Soul Point. If Resolve get this dragon, can you see a way back for Vanir?
No. No, there is no real way. Sleepy's basing right now to hopefully finish up that IE for himself, and then he should just TP back out onto the map. And I mean, you look at the items, this is about as good as it's going to get for Vanir. and it's not looking great. I think realistically, the game doesn't necessarily end with this Mountain Soul.
Yeah.
But it's as good as dead for Vanir. They have to. It's you're talking miracles at this point. So try and set up some vision in a corner of the jungle. Try and catch out somebody sort of taking a greedy pathing, and that's about as good as it gets for this Vanir draft, because they just can't fight into Resolve. Resolve have just been outplaying them from minute 1 to minute right now, and that's kind of how it is.
There can be miracles if you believe. Don't worry, Norway fans. There's always hope. And remember, this is the best of 3 series, and this is the first game. So, opportunities for Vanir to come back into this one moving forward. Resolve moving towards that bot side with a very big wave of those Baron up minions with the Soul as well. Curtain Crawl will be looking to get some damage. That wave has been caught out by another excellent death sentence, and there's just nowhere to go for Nidalee. There's no tankiness on this Vanir lineup, and you know what? Speed up Resolve, because you're moving towards the Nexus. You're looking for damage. Engage comes in from Rakan. Cullen comes down, but Rakan is dead before any other members of Vanir can even react. The massive minion wave has been broken from another long distance death sentence. Will catch out Camille. They're going to be taking out every member of Vanir. Ezreal will jump away. Varnite can only stand and watch as his team is annihilated. Richly cannot get the last hook he needs to get the ace for his team, but it just will not matter. Resolve are going to take the first game of this best of 3 series. And you know what, Chavada? I don't know if Resolve are ever going to lose again.
At this rate, they're looking like they might just hold a perfect record, bar that one unfortunate event, which we've spoken about a lot of times, and we're not going to bring up because Resolve just won. They just beat out Vanir there, as you saw, and yeah, I mean, it was just dominating start to finish. It's always kind of seemed like with that kind of draft, if Vanir didn't pull ahead, then things weren't really going to look positive for Vanir. And I think, you know, Vanir, they drafted what looked like a very comfort draft for them, but they never really got the Camille going. Sleepy had a lead in the mid lane, but they were never able to really, you know, make anything tangible of it. And that was kind of the problem of that draft. If there's no snowball from the solo laners, or no meaningful snowball where they convert into, you know, side lane plates or the Rift Herald on the top side, then the champions just slowly fall to the wayside to the likes of the Ornn, the Cassiopeia scaling, that just raw 5v5 team fighting. And I think even though we sort of held the limelight over Dragdar, over Linkus, I think, you know, I'm about to say, if we're giving out MVPs, I almost want to give it to Reichly. I think it
has to be, right?
He was just pulling off death sentence after death sentence, and it felt like he was borderline never missing, and he was always hitting those key targets and sort of just making things happen for Resolve, start to finish.
And we talked about looking at the composition when it was drafted by Vanir. I made the point that it's going to be hard for you to land death sentences in all these mobile champions, but I was wrong.
The man doesn't care.
He does not care about my analysis.
He doesn't care about He doesn't care about mobility, Will. All right, he does not care. And I feel like on the back of what was a really good Thresh performance, and everyone honestly sort of pulled their weight except for Pillar. We're staring at you, buddy. You need to, you need to pull your weight now, as a really dominating performance from Resolve.
Well, we're going to jump to a very short break, everyone, but don't go anywhere. Best of 3 series. Can Resolve go 2-0 and say, we're never going to lose again? Or will it be Vanir coming back 1 apiece to take this one to the 3rd game? Don't go anywhere. We'll see you in a few minutes. Welcome back to the NLC Full Open, presented on this stream by the UKEL. I'm Wolvar from Whittingham. I'm joined by Agent Jamada Ford, and we just saw truly resolved performance as Resolve managed to pick up the first win in this series against Vanir, the UK team taking down the Norwegians, and it was very comfortable.
Yeah, it's about as a Resolve performance as you can sort of get as what we've seen really from Resolve so far. This roster's basically just goober stomped on everything they've played versus so far. So yeah, Vanir, they kind of just looked out of it from nearly the start. Sleepweed definitely the shining light of that game one. And I think if you're looking at sort of drafts and trying to build a focal point or a draft around the player, I think it has to be around Sleepweed, looking towards this mid lane matchup, because everywhere else in that game, in all honesty, looked kind of dire. I think you can maybe, again, try and draft a very positive matchup for Smurfgoon in the top side, but Artorias seemed to have his number, kind of just kept him sort of under until, Ornn just started doing Ornn things, right? Handing out the items, and Camille couldn't really split push into the Ornn because she wasn't really that accelerated. She wasn't accelerated at all. So yeah, I think, draft wise, I think whilst it's definitely okay to draft towards the comfort picks that, Vanir definitely had for themselves,
Of course, yeah.
they have to aim towards a composition that can definitely function, that doesn't have such a high execution flaw. Because I think with Resolve, not only are they able to sort of meet those execution flaws on those kind of comps that Vanir drafted anyway, they're drafting these very low execution skill flaw comps where, the team comps will just play themselves, and all Resolve have to do is know how to play the macro. And in this game, they didn't even really need to know how to play the macro because they just out-microed them in the laning phase.
It was a case of, we're going to beat you in lane, and then it's going to be a case of going around the map, picking up all the objectives, which is exactly what they did. They lost out on one dragon of the 5 that were available. They lost out on no Rift Heralds. They got both. I think they lost a couple of towers as well. But it was a case of, by the time they were losing towers, it was a case of Camille did half damage to a tower while her team was slaughtered in the mid lane, which not a great trade considering they didn't even get the tower on that push, and they lost 2 mid and the entire team, and all priority over every neutral objective.
On the entire map,
in the game. But, half damage on the tower is cool. But I want to just hone in a little bit onto Resolve, because it's easy to look at Vanir and say, okay, well, they're kind of disappointed across the board. And yes, there are things that they did okay. Like the mid lane matchup was fine for Sleepway. What do Resolve need to do this game? Do they just do exactly the same thing? Or do they try to spice up a little bit just to keep Vanir guessing?
I think they can look to sort of do the same thing. I think the only adjustment is I would maybe look towards drafting a slightly easier matchup or a more sort of nullifying matchup for Pillar. It seemed like Sleepway, he had the early pick on the Lucian, and Pillar also had the R5 on the Cassiopeia. And whilst obviously compositionally the Cassiopeia makes complete sense, and in the matchup it's not like the most negative matchup in the world for Lucian, or for Cassiopeia, I beg your pardon. He was just being sort of out-microed and out-laned. And I feel like there's maybe a few other picks you could maybe lean into in that spot, which won't have as rough of a time. Maybe something like Azir. Pillar loves the Azir. So could look into something like that. But I think just maybe even early picking something for Pillar where it's not really that punishable, so that the rest of the Resolve comp can kind of just function, and Pillar doesn't really have to do much.
And let's have a quick look before we get into Champ Select for the second game at the bot lane matchup, because this is something that we highlighted at the beginning of the game, and we were like, okay, at the beginning of the day, we were like, this is it. Dragdar versus Vardags, right? Ex-EU LCS player versus Dragdar, who's been the player for this Resolve lineup. I reckon it's pretty fair to say, of course, all the other players have done amazingly well as well, but it's been Dragdar that's been the star child in this composition so far. It was not a matchup that was even remotely close from the get-go. And yes, Vardags was in a bit of a rough position on that Ezreal Rakan. You're not going to be winning early game against Jhin and Fresh, but Vardags never really got too involved in the game.
Yeah, I mean, Vardags, I think, is maybe his only kill participation in the entire game was that snipe on Artorias on the top side, and I think that's about all he really added to the game. It's just kind of unfortunate they decided to draft like that. They wanted the focus to be on the rookie top laner, on Sleepway, and because of that, Vardags and Espen, they had to suffer a bit in the bot side matchup when you feel like they didn't really have to. So maybe looking towards that as well. I definitely feel like whilst, yes, you have the Jhin, you have the Thresh, they're showing their you had the opportunity to just outright have a counter matchup, and you opted to just draft a complete. We're gonna sit on the tower. We're gonna try and scale. We're not gonna give over much, but they did, even though they didn't necessarily die for a while. Taking that poor level 2 trade, losing out on all of the CS, giving Dreadnought all of that space to move around. That was all Resolve kind of needed. They just used the bottom side priority and moved it to points of the map where it mattered.
Let's have a little bit of talk about the next game. Let's talk about picks and bans just before we get into it, because there's no cheating. I don't want you to cheat and look at stuff that's being picked and banned away. If you were Vanir and you're drafting for them at this match, you're their coach, Baba Yaga. Are you going to be... just saying, I'm just getting you invested, getting your mind in the right place. Are there champions that you're feeling, looking at the way they were played by Resolve, that you need to ban away?
I think you can definitely look towards the Graves, or even first picking the Graves is probably okay in this kind of situation. It kind of depends on what's up, though. I think if you have the Lucian up, Resolve showed that they weren't really interested in the champion at all. So you could maybe sort of just forego Nidalee, try out the Graves, still pick up the Lucian, and then try and find AP somewhere else, maybe in the top side, or Vardag's. He doesn't mind playing Syndra or Karthus in the bottom side, so you can find the magic damage there. But I think you might look towards banning away the Graves. I don't think after that performance they need to keep the Galio ban. I think they can keep it sort of on the back burner, unless they're planning to sort of early pick up the Camille again, in which case maybe even Sleepy decides to take the Galio himself, and then you have that Galio Camille set up for yourselves. And you have a bunch of mid lane priority to work with if you have the Graves first pick. I'm not actually sure what side they'll be selecting. I have a fly in my face. I don't think you can see it.
It's having a small breakdown in your analysis. I like it.
But I think they can maybe look towards dropping the Galio ban, maybe even take the Galio themselves if they opt into a Graves first pick, assuming they're on blue side again. And they can maybe look to make some kind of 1-3-1 work in that manner. But I think, definitely trying to draft a stronger bottom lane matchup for themselves should definitely be something to look at, because it was just sort of an unnecessary B4, B5 to take into what was effectively a Resolve kill lane, when things can go like that, and you just end up giving so many resources and so much priority and map control. So I think definitely looking towards trying to draft something more aggressive. You highlighted the MF in Champion Select. I think that could have been fine. Something like an MF Nautilus, just, straight kill lane into kill lane. And then the Nidalee even has an extra lane to play around if she doesn't really have the room to work with the Lucian or with the Camille.
I mean, Leona and Bard were both available. If you're looking for aggressive pickups in that bot side, yes, Bard is more aggressive elsewhere rather than in the bot lane, but it's aggressive. And Leona, of course, is going to be giving so much more in the support role than the Ricardis in those early stages. The questions have to be asked about that bot lane matchup, and we'll have to see if it's resolved by Vanir. That was a bad choice of words, but we move. It's a word I use a lot. They chose I'm 24. Resolve isn't. My question is, your face just made me crack up. So, Syndra, we mentioned it, something that Varda likes to play. Can you leave it up against Resolve when it's something that we know that Pillar likes to play? And you talked about giving Pillar something a little bit comfy, something that is a little bit safer. Is it Syndra? Is that the answer?
I think it could be, yeah. I think if Vanir want to also go down that route, then they could also end up taking the Syndra sort of earlier on in the draft as well. And again, pairings, it works really well with the Graves. So I think that could be a sort of a key pick here to keep our eyes on. But for now, they do not want to give Rightly another Thresh game.
I mean, I do not blame him. I would have banned that one away as well. He was magnetic with those hooks. Lilia and Gallia are going to be the second two. You winced a little bit at the Galio ban there.
I don't think it's necessary. I don't think you need to be banning away the Galio against Pillar. I feel like whilst he does play it, there's more problem champions in his pool than that. Going to be seeing the Silas removed away again, so indicating to me that Resolve, they are looking to just early rotation the Ornn again, and we'll see this time if Vanir are willing to just remove it, because it seems telegraphed. It seems like if you're Vanir, you should just kind of know that they're opting into the Kindred again. So we're going to see the Graves up, most likely the Ornn up again, the Lucian. All of these champions going to remain up and available for a B1 pick. And we'll see whether Vanir decide to pivot, and they do. They lock in the Ornn first pick this time around.
I like this. It was very, very telegraphed, but it will give power over to Resolve in other areas. We can see the Graves could well be one of them, will be one of them. And do you know what? They listen to us. Leona will be the lock-in for Richley. Not going to be able to be on the Fresh, but another engage-heavy support. And now Vanir might be a little bit of a spot of bother. Where are they going to want to go? Denying the Jhin away from that Jhin Leona lane that's so brutal?
Yeah, I mean, whilst I'm happy with the change, I'm not sure that Ornn was necessarily the route to go down, because now you've also given Linkus his Graves again. You're opting into the same jungle matchup, which it didn't necessarily look too great. Yes, some skirmishes just naturally went Resolve's way, but Wave didn't have a great performance, so we'll have to see if he can sort of, reboot and, play better on a champion that he really loves to play. We'll have to see what Sleepy now decides. I mean, with the Nidalee there, it just says to me that they're happy to take Lucian again.
Oh, it will be the Syndra,
right,
though, but don't be fooled, people at home. This could well be on Vardags. This is a flexible pickup. We know that Vardags can play this one. It's denying from Pillar. Do we want to see the Orianna pick?
I would prefer, just on the Syndra, I'd prefer for it to actually go into Vardags' hands right now. I feel like if you're, Resolve beat me to it. I feel like if you're Resolve, you just take the Camille right now. You're very happy to do that. And then now you look to either just ban out some supports that could be problematic for this Leona, because she has pretty positive matchups into all of the supports that are sort of meta and up that are left. So you could look to do something like, even though it's a good matchup for Leona, you remove away something like, the Jax ban means that they're not sold that the Ornn is going top. Okay. But you could have actually opted into banning, even though the Rakan is obviously not the best matchup to take into Leo, it could be something that Vanir could still take, irregardless of the fact that the Leona is there, and it gives them another form of that engage, which, with the Syndra and the Ornn laid on top of, can be very deadly. And now I like the Ashe ban. I would like to see that followed up by a Jhin ban, and given the Jax ban, I'm not sure what direction Resolve are necessarily going here. They could look at maybe something like a Fiora ban if they're going down these sort of picks on Smurf, Gu, and sort of Hall. But no, they don't want the Karma there. Karma's just going to stay in the ban pit. And yeah, I mean, Vanir, I'll expect them to just remove Jhin. There's no reason to do anything else unless they have something in mind in particular, which they're sort of scared of here, the TF. Okay, so not wanting TF in the game. They don't want Pillar on that champion just because Camille TF is a very, very deadly 1v1 setup. It does mean, though, that Dragdar can just take the Jhin here if he wants it. There's no reason for Pillar to actually show his mid pick like right now, just because the Syndra is being flexed. So, I mean, we'll have to see. The Orianna is pretty fine and it's pretty safe.
Yeah.
But the only issue now comes of if Vanir decide to flex the Syndra to the bottom side, which, given the MF over, it doesn't seem like they're going to opt into. Syndra, Sleepy could have locked in the Lucian, and that's not a fun matchup for Orianna. And we just saw what Sleepy can do on the champion. It seems like, however, we are going to see this MF most likely be locked in as the timer ticks down. No, we're going to take the Jhin himself.
Don't get baited by hovers.
Yeah, don't get baited by hovers. So, I mean, now I'm expecting this to just get locked in with a pure kill lane.
Nautilus?
You could... Ooh. The Shen pick is interesting. I like the Shen pick. It sort of can shut down some of the Camille side lane plays, but
don't get baited by hovers.
The Nautilus just does make more sense. No, I was getting back to it. The Nautilus makes a little more sense for the lane. It gives them that extra bit of engage, which they have the Ornn, they have the Jhin Curtain Call. Having that one more piece of lockdown would really help them out. And Resolve hovering on the Caitlyn, I think it's probably fine here. It does mean, though, that Artorias might have to sort of be forced to play towards the bottom side when he maybe wants to put some resources into Camille. But at the end of the day, it's an Ornn lane, so you're not really too fussed about it. But some of these 2v2 sort of 3v3 matchups, I'm definitely leaning in favor of Vanir here.
Okay, let's talk about that one. Let's say Vanir's problem last game was that they drafted to win the 1v1s and the 2v2s, and it didn't come out like that. Have they put themselves in a better position to win in that manner, or have they gone for a different direction entirely?
Different direction entirely. They've gone close towards what Resolve had in game one. The only sort of outlier here is the Nidalee. We'll have to see what kind of build path she goes again, whether she decides to go into the sort of damage-orientated or the utility-orientated build is obviously yet to be seen. I think last game he ended up rushing something like Zhonya, so he wasn't really a useful champion in the last game. So we'll have to see if he can make use of some of that utility that she can bring in the later games. But yeah, I think Vanir, they have a much more stable team comp this time around. And Resolve, I mean, they've softened around quite a few picks, obviously. I think Linkus is the only player here with the same pick in game 1.
Yep.
So yeah, I think Resolve, sort of a comfortable, stable draft where they don't have to do too much. And they definitely scale very fine. I'm kind of looking at this Vanir comp, and part of me wants to say, I think the scaling is fine for Vanir. I think Resolve are kind of going to potentially struggle in the mid game, where you're going to see Ornn hit those 2 items. He hands out 1 item. Vardags is on 2 items. Sleepweed is on double pen and a Ludens or a Super Soaker. And that's when, almost any member on this Resolve lineup can just get one shot by any piece of CC. They get clipped by, a Nautilus Dredge line, a Scat of the Week, Ornn knock up. You go into the death chamber.
So, standard question that a player played to ask. We've seen the way that these two teams played last game, and now we've seen the compositions. Are Resolve taking the 2-0?
Are Resolve taking the 2-0? Given how game 1 went, I'm very inclined to say yes. I think that Vanir overall have much better lane matchups in comparison to game 1. We've got Vardags and Espen on a much more sort of, even ground sort of matchup. So I'm happier to say that Vanir at least have a chance when it comes to draft, but given how, overpowering Resolve were in the last game, I'm still very happy to say that I think Resolve can take this to a 2-0.
I hope it's a 3-game series, so I'm hoping that
So
they
do
can
I.
bring this one back, because
So do I.
more casting, the better. Of course,
Yes.
this is the best of 3. So if Resolve win this one, they will be going through tomorrow to take on Team Singularity, who'll be beating them above this game in the bracket. And that's not an easy game.
Yeah, it's not necessarily going to be an easy game. I feel like if Vanir somehow managed to turn things around, that Singularity matchup, it's going to be rough. Whereas Resolve, as long as Pillar, pulls his pants up, he puts on the big boy pants, he puts on the I'm not getting solo killed at level 6, then I'm bullying him because he's my friend. But, Resolve should be fine. As Vanir changing things up at the level 1.
They've been spotted out, though, is something that should be noted. You can see Leona bundling in to get a ward of Resolves in the bot side. Actually, might not even have warded down. We're looking through. Yep, has thrown one down. But check out top lane for a second. It's still there. Don't worry about it. And Vanir are going to be moving back down towards the bot side of the jungle. But going to be walking directly over a ward if they decide to do so, because that's what you do when you see an invade. You go and do the counter.
Yeah.
So let's have a little look at what these junglers are going to do again. Do we want to see? Are we going to see the same thing from them as we saw last time?
It doesn't seem like it. It looks like we're seeing a bit of an adaptation in pathing here for Wave. I believe last game started on the red buff. This time, starting out on the top side. So he wants to path down towards this Jhin, towards this Nautilus lane. Try and get things going. If you can shut down the Caitlyn, make Caitlyn have to recall before she has the BF sword, that is a really, really big win that you get. Just by Caitlyn not being able to back on that sort of golden ninja, it means that she doesn't get to pressure the bottom side as hard as she can, which is kind of what you want out of these Caitlyn lanes, right? You want her to shove, you want her to hit at the tower, you want her to be there to always have priority so that you can secure these early dragons. But if you're able to go down to the bottom side and impact that lane, make Dragdar have to reset early, then the lane kind of becomes a bit of a stalemate.
And this is what we saw Resolve's bot lane doing last time. It's always having priority, making it so easy for Linkers to play around them in the bot side. And this time around will be a little bit more difficult because Jhin and Nautilus certainly going to be up to play early much more than the Ezreal Rakan were. But Caitlyn and Leona, that's an old school bot lane from back in the day, but certainly one that's still going to pack a massive punch.
Yeah, Caitlyn, still, even after the nerfs, she's always been kind of okay. The nerfs were just sort of, the buffs originally were kind of just overkill. It's what drove her into that sort of S tier or pickle ban status that she had for a little while. And with the Leona lockup, Zenith Blade into that stun, into Caitlyn trap, you will lose a lot of HP. Vardags is going to have to be careful, but he does have the kill lane threat of his own, as this time around, trades in the mid side, definitely much better for Pillar. Earlier on, last game, definitely sort of losing out on what felt like every single trade.
Yeah.
As junglers, paying some attention to them, just trading out on the Herald. Artorias needs to be careful, because if that creep that was taking aggro had died any earlier, he would have been locked up underneath the tower. And I feel like he would have gotten solo killed there, so... Gonna have to take the reset because of it. No,
He's good. He'll get interrupted and he's going to turn some damage around onto the Ornn to make sure that he doesn't get interrupted in the future. But we can see Pillar is starting a fight in the mid lane. The jungler is there as well, but going to be able to back away. Doesn't want to get bogged down in 2v1, and smart play from the mid laner for Resolve to keep himself safe.
Yeah, just going to keep himself safe. You'd imagine after he eats up that wave, we'll take the reset for himself. And
he might have caught Lucas. Both of those, the cat jumps in, sees the man with the gun, just like, they both look very shocked. They're like, oh, hello.
Hi.
I'll see you later. And Lucas is like, yep, you will, as he wanders out of the jungle.
Yeah, neither of them were expecting to see each other at that point. And Linkus is going to take the reset. Has a little bit of a farm lead, but Wave does have a linear path down towards his Krugs at the moment. As I like to see those pings on the map from, I would imagine it's probably Linkus or Rightly, pinging onto the enemy Raptors at their second spawn, trying to get there in time, but because Wave hasn't reset, is going to miss out on trying to invade on those Raptors. But I really like the sort of the pings show to me that Resolve are looking to be proactive. You can see Linkus, Rightly together, popping the double super, a little bit inefficient, but they were looking for that invade, maybe into a mid lane gank now. But yeah, Vanir, Wave, fortunately, didn't take the reset, isn't going to lose that camp. Is going to not finish up his Krugs though, is going to reset before taking that camp, as Artorias still hasn't reset. I was wondering why he was so low on HP. But you'd imagine now, Resolve... Oh, wow!
Ooh, first blood coming through from Smurfguten. That auto looked a little bit range drawn.
I mean, so... Fun fact about the Ornn autos, they're kind of hard to be cancelled when it's the Brill animation. If he starts it up,
he's finishing.
Best know you're gonna get clapped. It's just how it is. And yeah, I mean, Smurfguten just gets the better end of a trade here. And Artorias definitely had a funky looking early laning phase, and I feel like that's culminated in this early solo kill for Smurfguten. So very comfortable on the top side now. Is going to be able to hold Artorias for a little bit longer, you would imagine. The kill doesn't do much in the grand scheme of things. It's just an injection of 400 gold and a little bit of an XP deficit, as Pillar, taking the worst end of a trade, could actually... Ooh, okay. I wasn't going to say drop, but Sleepy definitely could have dropped the absolute power, and he did as
in the
engage on the bottom side.
Though, Rich needs to be very, very careful. It's already gone so low, and it will look for one more time before he goes down. Dragnar running for the hills as Ornn is down there as well. Will take the spear, but might be able to get out so low. But Wave jumps forward, looking for him. Dragnar running for his life, won't be able to get away. His Wave picks up another, and this is a very different game from the last one, as Vanir pulling out all the stops early.
Yeah, very different game, and it seemed like Dragdar had to reset before he actually had the gold for a BF sword, came back with a pickaxe. Same for Vardags though, so it's not like it was on uneven ground or anything. But yeah, I mean, it seemed like Smurfguten just had the window to TP, right? He had just solo killed Artorias. Artorias had to collect the wave and shove it in. And yes, whilst he's had to miss maybe a wave and a half, 2 waves on the top side at the moment, it means that he's able to TP down to the bottom side, and he's able to secure a play with the rest of Vanir. And they also get the dragon on the backside of it, which is a really big bonus here. Resolve with the Caitlyn Leona lane. Definitely you would imagine in the pre-game thinking, all right, let's try and get some early dragons stacked. But with that skirmish, with that fight, it means that Vanir, they're the ones with the early dragon. And they don't really lose out on much, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it just allows Camille a little bit more farm, gets a little bit of a lead from that play. But Ornn's going to be really happy with that. Already has the solo kill 1v1, has that badge, has the achievement go bot and get a kill for your team. So going to be very, very pleased with how things are going for Vanir in these early stages. Of course, it's not over and out yet for Resolve. The gold lead isn't that significant, and yes, it's only 1 dragon, but there'll be plenty more on the table. Should you be worried if you're a Resolve fan?
I don't think there's much to be too worried about at the moment, but I don't think the game state is necessarily too positive for Resolve. You know, Artorias now has probably made up for the gold deficit in the CS department, but you know, you're looking towards Dragdar Rightly, you want this lane to be online. The TP's kind of stifled that, They weren't able to pick up the early dragon. It doesn't look like they've even picked up any plates either. So certainly not the best start for the Resolve bottom side, especially given how it started out in game 1. And now it seems like Linkus, many pings going down at the moment. It seems like they want to try and find Sleepwe. Not Sleepwe, I beg your pardon. They want to find Wave, but not really able to do much. They are trying to secure some vision down here, but there's nothing really down here except for the tower, right? You've got the Rift Herald on top side, and that's kind of it. So Resolve, I feel like they're hungry, they're looking, but there's not much to get unless they can find this pick on the mid.
Oh, nice ultimate coming through from Pillar. Linkus moving forward. But Pillar needs to be careful. It's gone very, very low. And Syndra trying to float away. Linkus will just chase up. Will the burn be enough? I don't know if it will. The crowd damage will miss as well. That means Sleepy's going to be able to get out of dodge, and a lot of resources burned and no kill gained.
Yeah, I mean, Linkus just greeting on his R. He could have ulted one more time and then ulted, but he wanted to just kill her without expending the ultimate. And because of it, Scatter the Weak comes up, and then Linkus is forced to shoot the ultimate blind, and he misses. And now, off the back of that play, the Resolve mid and jungle, they had to back off. And now it's just a free Rift Herald for Vanir. They're winning out everywhere.
And it's completely different from what we saw last game. Resolve so confident, so secure in the earlier stages. This time around, hemorrhaging objectives, hemorrhaging matchups, and gotta be a little bit concerned, but still early days. That Rift Herald will give some extra gold to Vanir. It's gold in waiting, shall we say, in the pocket of Wave.
It's sort of standing gold, right?
Yeah,
like it's always gonna be sort of a guaranteed 320 gold, unless you sort of make a play around a side lane, or Pillar gets chunked out and then all of a sudden there's a 3-man or a 4-man in mid, and then you can sort of take most of the tower plates. So even more standing gold, you can kind of almost treat this gold lead at the moment as if it's a 1.5k as opposed to just a flat 1,000 gold.
Yeah.
And now Wave going to be looking to get into the enemy jungle with Espen and co. And you'd imagine they want to try and drop some of this gold onto Vardags now. I feel like it's either going to be Vardags or Sleepwe. You're really happy to give the gold over to either member. I think as things stand, maybe you want to give it more to Sleepwe. If you get it to him, then he's able to one-shot so many of these members of the Resolve lineup that injecting him with gold is just such a big benefit. But I think either are fine. So I think it's just going to come off the back of, good wave state, a good rotation, good vision control, and Wave will then decide where he wants to drop this Rift Herald.
For me, it's a case of looking towards this bot lane once again. Dragdar's fallen a little bit behind in terms of farm. It's not massive, it's less than 10, but you're Caitlyn. This is exactly what you want to be doing. You want to be getting farm and you want to be getting ahead, and that just hasn't happened this time around. Top lane, we're seeing a bit of a scuffle, though Camille and Norm were just checking each other out, seeing what's going on. Both of them ended low, but no one went down. Summoner's not burned either side, but we saw this one last time around, and it ended with Smurfgood getting the kill in the top side matchup, so does need to be a little bit careful. Wave still got that Rift Herald in pocket. We'll have to decide where to drop it. Could well be mid, though.
Yeah, I mean, given the rotation, they could just give up bot prio, and yeah, there you go. They put it mid, so seems like only Wave is going to get this gold unless Sleepy returns back to mid lane, but just using it for prio, and I mean, Vanir, they don't necessarily need this dragon. They could have actually just committed to the mid tower. Yeah. As Sleepy is getting the better end of Scatter the Weak there, but looks like Resolve, they're really posturing for this dragon. I feel like Vanir, they're happy with taking almost 3 plates in mid. They don't necessarily have to do anything sort of crazy for this dragon. And it's just going to be about mid prio versus bot prio. Pillar's being caught out in the mid lane. And he's dead.
Pillar has gone down. Orianna, you can see all the balls. We know exactly what happened there. Going to be able to pick up an easy 3rd plate on that play. And with Linkus and Richley having to move forward to clear out that mid lane, that could give the inside track towards either Dragon or bot lane towards Vanir. You can see Espen moving down to see if they can catch out. Dragdar won't be able to. He's just going to be playing the bouncer to make sure that they can grab this Infernal. Actually going to be looking to engage onto Richley, who might have stepped forward a little bit too far. Dragdar and Linkus are both there to put damage down. Espen actually needs to be careful. Going to be stunned up. Going to have to go golden to keep himself alive, but will not be able to much longer. One more shot from Dragdar has all it takes. The Dragon's already gone down the ace and hole. We'll do a decent amount with Jin, who's going calling, and that's a huge onslaught from Miller. Picks up one. Will be able to pick up another. As Smurfgooten, he won't be able to walk away. Just like that. Resolver looking to turn the fight. Looking towards Sleepy. Will get a nice engage from Artorias, and Pillar has followed up. Say what you will about the Orianna in the mid lane from last game, but Pillar's doing all the work right now.
Yeah, Pillar with a really nice shockwave, but I kind of have to ask what Vanir are doing.
Wave
is
what
now
are you
even
doing? Going to be caught out by Artorias. Gets the stun, gets the damage. One more will be enough. That's a lot of shutdown gold going on to Camille and Vanir. We had so much praise, but you just throw it away.
I don't understand why they felt the need to commit so hard to the fight after the fact, right? You know, Resolve, honestly, I feel like they were the ones trolling, trying to get into the river here to try and contest. But I feel like Vanir, I mean, I can't even finish the point. It seems like Pillar's probably going to die. We just praised him, and now
Pillar needs to be careful. Espen will be able to get a stun, and that will be the death sentence. I know it's not fresh, but, you know, it still works.
Look, you can have fancy feet for every skill shot in the game, but Dredgeline will always hit you. And that is just the story of League of Legends, as old as it be. And I mean, Vanir, they walk away with the dragon, but they just give over so much gold unnecessarily to, you know, key members in Artorias. I think Dragdar even picked up kill credit for himself too. And now you can see, unlike last game's Camille, this Camille is, she's on spike. She's got the Triforce before that 15-minute mark. She will be able now to actually bully out the Ornn for a few levels. And especially once she manages to IMIze towards that Ravenous Hydra, she's going to have all the sustain in the world to sort of take wacky trades and then sort of heal up off the minion waves, and Ornn's not really going to have access to large amounts of healing until he may decide to opt into a Warmogs if he wants to hold the Camille on the side lane. So Artorias, Resolve, both in a very comfortable position for now. Things aren't necessarily over for Vanir now that they've made that mistake, right? Sleepy is still very strong. He's got the Ludens, but is lacking the Sword Pen boots at the moment, which, given his early laning phase, the fact he's got 2 kill credits, it's kind of surprising that he's not got some of those items in his inventory right now. We are seeing Vanir rotate up towards the top side. The Herald is spawning up in a few seconds now, so trying to get some priority down. Sleepy's got priority, he's moving up into the jungle. I like this movement here. They are giving up the bottom side tower and the massive wave, but I think this is kind of the trade that Vanir are willingly happy to take for now. And Vardags is inevitably going to eat up that wave unless Resolve decide to just force Vardags all the way back in turn for the Herald in the top side. We'll have to wait and see. But for now, Vanir just have full priority on the top side of that.
In terms of Resolve trying to contest it though, you've got Graves moving into the jungle. Of course, Artorias is still around top and Pillar can turn up, but Espen's going to get the ultimate down onto Artorias. He's going to look to jump in, won't be able to do so, and the Hexam Ultimatum will be used onto Lawless, but I think that's going to be all she wrote on the top layer. It is, as Wade picks up the kill. Link is forced to flash away from Sleepy, but might still go down, looking for the damage as much as he can. Collateral damage will not be enough, but the last auto attack will, as Sleepy goes down to Linkus in the most clutch fashion. And you know what? That might have been enough to dissuade any kind of play towards the Rift Herald. I think Nidalee Wave might be moving towards it, but Dragdar, Richly, and Pillar have all heard tale that there might be an objective around here, so we're going to be able to force anyone away. Will be a damage on the top tower for Smurfguten, but that's a great play from Resolve.
Yeah, I mean, Resolve very happy, and they've taken 2 towers, one of which very important, that mid lane tier 1, being able to sort of push your vision line further up on the map to sort of try and secure picks. Righty could be in trouble.
Righte's going to be in a lot of trouble. The curtain call will be the last shot needed, but Dragdar, what's going on there? They was pick up an easy kill onto Wave just with a couple of auto attacks.
Yeah, I mean, rightly lockdown Wave, so trap, 2 headshots, Q. Nidalee's not a tanky champion. What else can I say? I don't really like the Liandry's pickup either. I feel like in this kind of game, you want to try and keep people alive. You want Syndra to stay alive. You want Vardags to stay alive. You want to be a support. So I'm never necessarily a fan of the damage Nidalee builds in comp. I think that they're just less gold efficient. It's not necessarily anything to harp on about for too long. But yeah, Dragdar, he liked that little bit of gold injection right there. Now he's got the BF sword. He's got the Infinity Edge. He's building towards what's likely going to be a Stormrazer's second item. So once he picks that up, he's going to be monster strong. And we are going to see now both teams push towards this dragon, and I think, as things stand, Vanir definitely have a better angle at it.
They have the control over the river right now. Have a bit of fishing control as well. But do need to be a little bit careful. Damage is coming through, and Resolve don't want to be giving them any free reign. Able to punch through, but they need to be careful. Artorias is taking a decent amount of damage, will be knocked up, and the damage coming through, the ultimate comes down and will be enough, but they're going to be able to grab down, but it's just going to be the Ornn caught in the sombrero. Dylan comes through. It will be the knock-up. It will catch on to Richley. He's going to be able to walk away, though, but Leono's not going to want to make any engages on that much health. Vanir will be able to stand strong with a couple of members. Decent health bars, but this could be a dangerous take if they try to go for the dragon now. Espen's very low. Smurfguten below half health. It's going to be dangerous.
I think it's more than fine, though. I think it's more than fine because Vanir, they managed to, at the end of the fight, have a position where they could push in mid-wave. And then they had the priority. Linkus almost...
That was going to be enough to secure the dragon, though.
Yeah, that should be enough to secure the dragon. And that's going to put Vanir on Ocean Soul point at 18.5 minutes. So Resolve now, they are sweating it. That's just damage from a Q and a Scatter of the Week onto Pillar. They're trying to chase onto something. You can kind of feel the sort of desperation there on the back end of the play. But yeah, Artorias again caught out by a dredge line, and Vanir, they capitalize, they take him down, and then because of where they've caught him out, they're able to push in another mid wave, and then they have full control of how they want to pilot the fight, and it forces Resolve into a position where they have to answer the mid wave and give up Dragon, or try and give up the mid wave, maybe end up even giving up the tower because of how low it was, and then, you know, try and skirmish over the Dragon on an uneven footing. And you saw, because of that, Vanir, they got the Dragon, positional advantage was way too much, and Resolve struggling now.
When you're looking for the flank of that last team fight, Mortals just turned around and said, actually, you know, this is the main flank of the fight, so that's unlucky for you, isn't it? Picking up the kill there and then the objective immediately afterwards, and this game is so much closer than it was last time around. Resolve still holding on to that gold lead, 1.5k, but Orn is getting to the point where next level, going to be able to give himself a couple of shiny new toys, and every level after that making the gold lead less and less relevant as an analysis tool in terms of items. So Resolve do need to start making some plays somewhere. Rifthold has just gone down, descending back into the earth as Baron Nashor will spawn up, and I'm worried that Resolve might be in a little bit of trouble here. Smurfguten still taking a lot of damage. We've seen this matchup before the other way round last time, it must be said. But Camille maybe having a little bit more hope and a little bit more fun in the side lane than we maybe saw on the reverse matchup.
Yeah, I feel like Artorias, despite the very interesting early laning, just ended up picking up a few early kill credits and sort of accelerate him into a position where he could have a little more impact for the last 5 minutes, but he's just really not had the kind of performance that you would want once you're at that kind of spot, as it seems like Vanir going to get that mid-tier 1 tower, so for them, able to sort of try and open up the map themselves. Just want to also highlight Linkus has picked up the Sanguine Blade on Graves, which I quite enjoy this tech. I think if you're a jungler, go and try it out. If you're a Graves player, it's actually quite fun. And you're going to see he just attacks really, really fast. He has full lethality when there's only one champion around. And it becomes a very item efficient, a gold efficient item. If you're sort of playing towards side like Linkus is right now, and you know you're only going to be facing one champion, 2 at the most, it speeds up your farm. Go try it. It's fun tech. But Pillar, we I hear the sirens, Will.
Why the curtain call? He was dead, Vardags. He was gone.
Oh, this. Okay, I thought they would.
No.
They would. I thought they would really try and go for the Baron there, but doesn't seem like they're willing to flip it on this play. They know they have the Ocean Soul in a few minutes, so they're really happy to just kind of wait out the spawn timer on that. They can kind of get priority wherever they want. So yeah, Vanir kind of in a comfortable position despite being down 1k gold. If they can get that Ocean Soul, then it really sort of solidifies the next sort of 5 to sort of 8 minutes, as Artorias feels like he's getting the better side of this trade. And especially, another thing to add, if Ocean Soul does get picked up, then Ornn is really gonna be fine on this side lane. He's really not going to struggle too much against Artorias. He can take some wacky trades, and then he can just heal up via the Ocean Soul.
Vanir just holding out for that 1 minute dragon spawn timer. Is there going to be a massive fight around this next objective? Actually, you know what? There's going to be a massive fight around this spawn right now before it even spawns. Linker's going to be putting the damage down, and he's the only one there, so going to be able to get those Sanguine Blade procs. Top laner gone from Vanir will be gone until the dragon spawns. Does have teleports, so should be able to get to the fight if that's the direction that Vanir need to go in, but don't know if that's going to be the one they want, because priority going to be gained mid lane by Resolve, and this could make the next fight even spicier.
Yeah. As things stand now, with Resolve sort of having this positional advantage, things can definitely get a bit scary for Vanir. Having to face check into a, a Shockwave, a Leona Warmer, a Camille hook shotting at your face. So, very, very good position. Very nice to find that pick on Smurf. And Dragon's up in 10 seconds. They can probably get priority on this mid wave, though. Vanir kind of showing more members in the mid lane, but I think it should end up being fine. No, I mean, Smurf's TP'd here, so it's going to be Vanir with the mid lane priority. And I think we're just going to see a bloodbath over this dragon.
I think it's just going to be one of those fights. They're looking for the engage. We'll only find Espen, but the damage coming through. Pillar's already gone very, very low. The ace in the hole will land. Look at the side. Artorias is on the sleeping. Look at the damage. We'll only get below half health before the flash is burnt. Espen being chased away now is the one who's going to be taking your damage. Leona cannot find the re-engage with the Zenith Blade and will be backing away, but I think it's fair to say Resolve had the better bite in that fight, but it's not over yet. Smurf Guten going to be clearing away for Vardags to step forward with Jin. Has that fourth shot available. Will be able to steal the dragon, and it's the Ocean Soul taken away. This fight can now look so different. The curtain is falling. Is it going to come down onto Resolve? It's going to come down directly onto Richley. The heal will keep him alive, and the fourth shot will not be enough to get the kill, but they're going to be able to get the kill onto Pillar as the first one of this fight. Resolve are going to have to run for the hills. Richley goes golden. It's not going to be enough to keep him alive as Sleepy gets another. It looks so good for Resolve, but Vardags is having none of it.
I mean, Vardags just walks up to the dragon, pop, and that's it. So they have the Ocean Soul now, and I mean, that's just going to buy so much time. It kind of felt like the build-up to that fight was going to be Resolve, that sort of get to control how things go, but it just wasn't the case. And now Vanir, they're pushing on the inhib. I had a bit of a brain freeze there.
It happens to the best of us. We'll be getting the tower down first, inhib laid bare. But it looks like they're not going to be overstaying their welcome, moving back away. Ocean Soul on Ornn and Nautilus. That's a lot of fun.
It's... yeah, it's not fun. It's not fun. No, you're just lying to the viewers. Will. You're just lying.
It happens. You know, occasionally keep them on their toes. Gotta keep them guessing. There's a test at the end. It's like, which 3 lies did Viper tell during this broadcast?
But yeah, I mean, it's almost kind of reminiscent of... I'm gonna butcher his name, so I'm just gonna say Suning's AD carry stole the dragon earlier on Jin, securing Soul, and I mean, Vanir sort of in the pilot seat now. That Ocean Soul is just gonna buy so much breathing room around whatever kind of play Vanir want to make. It means Ornn gets to hold the Camille on the side lane for much longer. It means that in these sort of wars of attrition around, choke points, Nidalee can, chuck spears, find damage, and even if some kind of poke damage is returned by Resolve, Ocean Soul and Nidalee will just heal them both up.
What's the play for Resolve? How did they get back into this one?
I mean, they're not necessarily too weak. They have a fair few items, but, they kind of just have to try and catch out Vardags or Sleepy, right? Sleepy doesn't have flash right now, so if Rightly can find maybe a solar flare and it can be followed up somehow, he can definitely drop, but he is such a scary member to try and jump onto because he can kind of just nearly insta-give anybody on the enemy team right now. And we're seeing a Baron attempt. That's
massive
a nice dredge
line directly onto Richley. He's going to be taken below half health, but they're not going to be able to get the kill. The ultimate to disengage. Linker's putting the collateral damage into the fight. Pillar gets a kill onto Sleepy though. That's the catch that they needed. And now they're jumping directly onto Vardags. Vardags has gone down. Dragon not getting the slipe. And Artorias getting the last hit. And then they're going to be able to get onto Espen. Espen's gone down. That's a 3-0 coming over to Resolve. They've got the inside track onto Baron. And do you know what? I think they're going to start it up.
They're going to start out. They should just damn well take it. They've got both of the carries of this Vanir draft. And Espen on top of it. Wave will not be able to get into this pit to steal. So, I mean, it's just going to be a Resolve Baron off the back of a really nice engage. Or so it seemed by Vanir at first. A re-engage by Rightly. Shockwave managed to find Sleepy on the bottom side. And that was kind of it. That was all they needed. And as soon as Sleepy was dead, it was just go, go, go for Resolve. They managed to find Vardags through the Hextech Ultimatum. They dropped him. They dropped Espen. And then Baron was free.
Absolutely free. And... that's what the Resolve need to do. That's the play they needed to make.
That is exactly what they need.
They pulled it off with perfection. Didn't lose a single member as well. So 5 Baron buffs onto Resolve. They got some kills as well, which is always nice to see. And now they're going to be able to start breaking down some of these towers and getting back onto the map. We've only taken 2 so far, but should the opportunity to take down some more, there goes another. And it's going to be Warring the Fight's kicking off, and in the backline, Vardax has been targeted once again. Artorias going to be able to get the kill down, as we're going to be able to see Nautilus falling as well. Artorias has turned on the style. 7-3-3 on the Camille, and do you know what? Resolve.
Well, look where everyone is on the map right now. I mean, this is the free inhibitor for Resolve. I mean, as things stand, I mean, they could even go all the way. Rightly's hunting for wave. I feel like you saw him on a ward somewhere. And I mean, they could push for the end, but
they're looking down for 20 seconds. They've got the Caitlyn down. They're looking for the top Nexus tower. We'll be able to secure it. Now the ultimate from the Ornn landing onto basically no one. Ultimate from Orianna. Just going to catch the Ornn, and Resolve decided it is a little bit too soon to look for the end. Dorla push their luck and they're going to back away, but this game has just done a full 180 in a matter of minutes.
Yeah, I mean, so is the nature of League of Legends, right? Vanir had all of the control that they really needed, right? They had the Ocean Soul, they had map control, they could have very easily played off wave prios, set up vision, and they were doing that, but it just came off the back of one bad fight. One bad fight, and then that was it. That was all it took for Resolve to come back into this game. They picked up the carries. They didn't take down wave, but it didn't really matter. And they got the Baron off the back of it. They opened up the base. And, I mean, Vanir, I like what they're doing here. I feel like Resolve might know where they are, because there's that one control ward right behind the red buff, so they might have spotted them out on that pathing. Resolve, they don't really seem to care. They're just pushing up.
Interested. Needs to be a little bit careful because Artorias isn't with them right now, so if they can get a quick engage, they're not actually going to look for it though, so they're just going to look to back and try and defend because members of Resolve are running directly towards their base, and this could be the last fight of the game as soon as it kicks off. Nautilus and Jin still haven't got back, and I don't know if Resolve know how few members are there to defend. They're going to be backing away. It's the old put up cardboard soldiers to make it look like more people are at home. Leave the lights on Vanir. But
I'll be honest, you was about to have to close out that game by yourself if they ended the game that way.
Because you were just shaking your head, sadly.
I don't know if I would have made it after that, I'm not sure. But, I mean, Resolve pulling the classic give over all 4 dragons, take the lead after the 4th dragon is dropped, give over the soul, you don't give a damn. Take the Elder after that play. It seems like, given the positioning, Vanir are at least going to have mid-prio, which is going to be a really big deal for them because they don't have the inhibitor in the mid lane. So if they can clear this wave and then have some kind of position to walk into the river and not give up that mid-prior, it's really good, but it seems like they're going to have to give it up anyway. If they have to walk into Resolve, I'm not sure they're going to be... I'm not sure. I don't think that they can take a fight on terms where they have to walk into Resolve like this anymore.
Well, Baron buff no longer going to be a huge issue, as that one has now dissipated, I believe. Leona just going to look for a quick reset though, and Vanir still hanging around the back of Dragon. You don't want to be giving up the mid lane priority. You don't want to be giving up that objective. Could well be a way back in. And it must be noted there's still an open in-hit mid for Vanir. If they can secure a good team fight and then an Elder Dragon or vice versa, it could well be a case of them taking the game on one swift push as well. This game has gone from one team leading to the other and back to so close. So many times this game, and now Sleepy's being caught out, the ace in the hole will not find him as he goes into stasis, but the collateral damage is huge, and now the fight is going to kick off in earnest. Ragnar on the back trying to put some damage in, but can only find the Ornn in the side. Richly there trying to break things up, trying to keep people low, but goes low himself. The curtain will call as Leona does have to flash. Vardag putting one more shot in, but it won't be enough. You see the teleport to base as Ornn wants to get back to defend, because Resolve, they're running in. They've got the super minions cracking on the door, and it's going to be Smurf Guten trying to defend, but look at the teleport coming through to keep that minion alive in the back. Linkers needs to be careful, looking towards the Nautilus, not going to be able to find anything as Vardex steps forward, has the damage as they do lose one member. The Nexus is going so low. Can they keep him away? Nautilus will do his best. Can Artorias get one more auto? Yes, he can! Resolve, they'll never lose again. They've taken the 2-0 against Vanir, and they'll advance to take down Team Singularity.
You have to both feel for Vanir if you're a fan and also kind of be a bit disappointed because of the nature of how they lost that game. You feel like they had everything in place for them to just take that one home, draw up the series, take it to a game 3, but they make one critical error trying to force a play to sort of push themselves further into the lead to try and take the Baron, and it flips the game on its head. And it turned into a game where all it could have taken was one team fight going either way. The base was open in mid lane. As long as there was a wave, either team most likely would have ended. And Resolve, I mean, that's the first time I feel we've actually seen them be pushed in a comp game, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Vanir definitely, you know, decent performance out of that game too, but you know, come mid game, come sort of the closing stages of the game, it just wasn't enough. Even with the Ocean Soul there, Resolve just found the picks when it mattered, and they close out the game. And I just have to kind of look towards, especially that game one, just because it felt like such a rollover game for Vanir, when you feel like if they just drafted themselves sort of a much stronger bottom side, that if they could have held onto that pressure in game one, that game one could have gone differently. Game one that could have been their win in reality. Even though I still feel like the draft gap would have been pretty large in game one, irregardless of whether they drafted a kill lane or a lane that can hold as much pressure as a Jhin and a Thresh. But they roll over game one, and then in game two, they show that they're at least capable of matching Resolve, but it wasn't enough. They were outplaying Resolve for a majority of the game, but that one mistake, they give over the Baron, and then eventually they give over the game, and that's just League of Legends.
It's insane. That second game was so back and forth, and as you said, Resolve certainly pushed more than I think it's safe to say more than we've seen from them since UKLC qualifiers back at the beginning of summer.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, that was the last time that I remember Resolve ever like having trouble with any team they've played so far.
Well, I think that's going to just about wrap things up here. Of course, Resolve taking the 2-0 means there's no need for that third game. They'll be advancing to take on Team Singularity tomorrow in a best-of-3 series. And that's, yeah, very, very sudden.
It almost feels kind of anticlimactic despite how exciting the game end was, because everything was built up for Vanir. Vanir could have just sort of slow-rolled the game home, it felt like. And then Resolve, they flip it on his head. They get the 1-2 good fights back to back. Vardag, Sleepy I don't want to say Sleepy got caught sleeping, but
you do want to say that.
It's kind of it's kind of what happened. Artorias finds him, and just off the back of those fights, and I don't know. I kind of feel for Vanir, but definitely a well-deserved victory for Resolve.
Absolutely, that's going to be it for me and Jamada today. But if you want to catch more League of Legends from the NLC Full Open, make sure to stay tuned on a lot of different channels. You can find them on Twitter at NLC to find out who is streaming what. A couple of them are still going today, so make sure that you scurry off and find someone. We might even be able to host one of them if we can find a game that's still going on. But from Viper and Jamada, that's all for now. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you another time.
See ya.